Greetings one and all from Nashville Superspeedway in Lebanon, Tennessee, where we just witnessed the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix to close out the 2024 IndyCar season. And although we didn't get the tense, down-to-the-wire championship fight that we had a very slim chance of seeing today, we still have plenty to talk about. Alex Palou is the 2024 NTT IndyCar Series champion, his third title in the last 4 years. Let's dive right into it. Chris, Will Power's championship long shot fell apart in a very, very unusual way. What happened and what did you hear from him after the race?
Well, it's sometimes in racing the stupidest stuff happens, and for Will Power, his lap belt came undone early in the race, and it was one of those situations where, you know, you're running at close to 200 miles an hour here at Nashville Superspeedway, even though it's only 1 1/3 miles long, but you can't really drive like that, and especially when it happens before lap 10 of 206. So he had to pit early. They had to reach down into the cockpit there and, you know, get him. We had to loosen him first, then they had to retighten him again. So finally get him back, and he went back into the race 5 laps down. I forget how many laps down he actually did finish. Wasn't ideal. And then he said later on that they actually came loose again. So they might need to look at, seeing if what kind of failure it was, whether if it was a manufacturer defect. Seemed pretty, upset, to put it mildly, after the race. But he spoke with myself, Jess Peters, Bruce Martin about what happened. What a weird way to lose a championship. Although, let's also be real here, there's 16 other races. Power, had this thing in Detroit. He had the crash of the 500, Toronto. A lot of things went wrong for Power that, he could have wrapped it up earlier. But, let's just face it. Here today, he was down coming into the race. I think he was down, 33 points if my memory is correct. And a belt failure of all things. The last time I remember something like this happening was, AJ Allmendinger at the 2013 Indy 500. It's just so weird. And Allmendinger, I was at the Indy 500 that year. He had a winning car, in my opinion. He had a car that could have won that race. But it just goes to show sometimes you got to make sure that everything is, done up right. And this was one of those random, fluky, weird things that happens. And that's why you run the races, everybody.
So, Tom, speaking of races, we actually got one here today, and there was a lot of speculation coming into this event that was originally planned to be held on the streets of downtown Nashville. What this oval that the series hasn't visited since 2008 was going to drive like. What is the appraisal of the on-track action today following this string of awesome performances on short ovals that the series has put on before this?
Well, I think they accomplished what they set out to do. They put a great battle on the track for the end of the championship. Now, granted, the championship did not come down to that. However, the racing was good, and you just look at how the race ended up finishing there at the end. It came down to the wire. And so Herta did a fantastic maneuver to get around Pato, and it was just a great battle. And that was really just kind of the whole thing, and this strategy with the tires. And, we saw issues over here in turn 4 where the bump was.
The bump.
we had talked so much about
Wasn't
the
it called
bump.
Lucinda?
And so
I think David Malukas actually called it Lucinda.
Lucinda the
bump.
Well, Lucinda was getting them pretty, wound up over there.
We're going to have to capitalize the bump in all our articles.
Yeah. Are we going to put the little T trademark around it now?
Yep.
And so they had so many challenges that they had to deal with, more than dealing with a really crazy street course that would have been downtown. So the turnout was good. The race into the finish was good. So all in all, I think they got a pretty good race out of it.
All right, something we have to think about after finally closing this season out. All the chips are down. The die is cast. The leader circle. Chris, you talked to Connor Daly after the race. Is this something that is just slowly becoming, we're talking about it more obviously, but is this something that is really starting to weigh on these teams and drivers more, especially with all the talk about the finances and the future of the series?
100%. There's also, the talks about the charters. I still don't understand why they're needed, if I'm being honest. but the Leaders Circle program is a massive hot button issue. It's almost $1 million in extra prize money for the teams. For those of you that don't know, a quick recap: it's a top 22 entrants and owners points with a limit of 3 cars per team. So Chip Ganassi has 2 cars that are not eligible for Leaders Circle points. So we had to go down to, I think, the 23rd or 24th placed car in owner points, entrant points, if you will, to see who was going to get the last spot. And it just so happened to be that Pietro Fittipaldi in the number 30 Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing entry was the final entrant eligible for the Leaders Circle purse money by 1 point over Stingray Robb, who they said on the broadcast that the driver of the number 41 AJ Foyt Racing machine had food poisoning, and it was not a comfortable ride for him. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that this was just one of those deals where, you got to limit your bad days. And Pietro, I think his best finish might have been a 10th or an 11th at St. Petersburg. I'm not sure he got a top 10 all year, but he was able to limit his bad days a little bit more than Stingray was, and that's what got him that 1 point more than Stingray at the end of the year. You hate to see it, but unfortunately there's a situation where there's going to be someone on the outside looking in. You mentioned Connor Daly. He got a top 10 finish. That was a good run for Connor. It helped further cement the number 78 in the Leaders Circle program, although he did a pretty good job at that at Milwaukee a couple weeks ago.
Podiums pay.
Yeah.
But the other big winner was Christian Rasmussen. Ed Carpenter, the team owner, had to tell Ed Carpenter, the driver, that he wasn't doing as good of a job as he thought he could. And so Ed Carpenter, the driver, stepped aside and put Christian Rasmussen in for the remaining 3 oval races, the 2 at Milwaukee and the 1 here at National Super Speedway. Sorry, it's been a very long day, everybody.
It has.
The other thing you think about, that's something that Ed hasn't done. He doesn't step out because it's his team. He has the right to drive for his own team. But Ed looked at it as he felt like he wasn't performing up to his expectations. I think if you look at his results, his last top 10 finish was in the 2021 Indianapolis 500. And so I think Ed's going to have a nice long conversation. Ed Carpenter, the team owner, is going to have a long conversation with Ed Carpenter, the driver, about what is next year going to look like. Because Christian Rasmussen, he finished, I think it was 14th today.
Yes. Middle
of the pack, 13 cars above him, 13 cars below him. I think that's how math works, right? I think maybe. I don't know. They'll put up a little thing on the bottom, I'm sure about that. Anyway, he did what they needed to do. He got the number 20 into the Leaders Circle program. He got them, I think it was 21st actually, of all the cars that were eligible. Job done. Mm-hmm. Rasmussen did the job. He did what they needed him to do. So that's going to start a whole nother conversation for Ed Carpenter, the team owner, is what does 2025 look like for that team? Rinus VeeKay, he's driven for Ed Carpenter Racing as long as he's been in IndyCar racing. Rasmussen did I think a good job for him this year. Only time will tell, and Ed's going to have to make those decisions, and we'll get the press release in our inboxes, and we'll see what they say.
So I'm really glad that you mentioned Stingray Robb, because I tried to get a word with him after the race, and he looked almost emaciated. I mean, he was hurting in that car. But, Tom, Stingray Robb may have been, maybe not the most central factor to the end of this race, but he was a factor when he got bookended by Palou and Herta in the final laps, and it looked like that momentum kind of sealed the track position in Herta's favor. This was not a pack race like we saw in the high downforce era of the late 2000s, or my personal favorite race ever, the MAV TV 500 in 2015.
Yeah.
My favorite too.
There we go. But was this a success? Because you were around for the days of the IRL where it wasn't a Talladega-style race.
Yeah.
Is this something good for the series, and do we need to look at making this a permanent fixture on the schedule?
I think they do. I would say that pack racing, that's kind of a thing of past. I know that we enjoy it, all right? There's a lot of, Talladega and Daytona feel to those races.
When they go right.
When they go right. We all have nightmares of 2011, and we can't forget that. But the racing here was really good. The strategy, as I already mentioned, was really good. And traffic played a big factor. So cars were able to pass and continue on, which if you go look at like the older kart days at Michigan and then when they went to California, you know, it wasn't all one pack. The faster cars took off. I had always been curious if we were going to get something like that again, because last year's Texas race was very much like that, you know. So it wasn't a pack race for after 10, 20 laps after the tires wore down. So yeah, they need to come back here. They need to fill these stands. They need to come back here and put on this exact show. Every time IndyCar returns to another, you know, place like this, of course, you know, some say we shouldn't be going to places we haven't been to, but that's not us.
Not now. Not now.
Don't do this. We made it through the season, man.
Yeah. My last race I ever cover, guys.
Yeah, first and last. But
you know, the race, they returned back here. They put on a good show. They definitely need to come back here. And let's do it under the night. Let's do it under the night lights. Let's put these lights on here. Let's put these stars out here at the middle of the night, and let's put on a good show.
It was a season of ups, downs, penalties, social media controversy, firing, hiring, firing again of a few people. But we made it to the end. Almost under the lights here at the 1.33 mile super speedway in Lebanon, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. And we will be back for the 2025 IndyCar season starting at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg in St. Petersburg, Florida. For the last time in 2024, Alex Gintz, Christopher DeHarde, Tom Blackburn, signing off for Frontstretch.
Steven Stump of Frontstretch.com here. Come back for more great racing videos. And if you like us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.